is Nairobi this morning? And Sarah, how is Egypt this morning? Super, super excited to have, us all on the call. Please let's keep the introductions coming. Would like to, get to meet the rest of, people on the call as well, just to know how diverse we are as an audience. Remember, it's about bridging borders, and one of the ways by which we bridge borders is by connecting even digitally. So we have Sylvia joining us from Kenya, and someone, I think Adelphi, is joining us from Benin. So I'll just, keep waiting, or just while the rest of the, participants are joining us, I will be sharing some, housekeeping rules for us to pay attention to. So while we wait, and while we wait for others to join, please confirm that you can see me and confirm that you can hear me very clearly, right? So make sure that, in terms of sight, you can see me clearly, and in terms of sound, check your audio device and make sure that you're connected directly. Additionally, for everyone joining, we'll give you like a brief moment. Remember, it's about bridging borders, and the best way to bridge borders is to sort of know what you're doing, wherever you're joining us from. You can get partnerships, you can get patronage, you can get an investor just by being on this call. So please introduce yourself and your business in the chat. So again, I know we've already said where we are from, but what's your name and what do you do? So what's your business about? So very quickly, let's feel free to do that while we wait for others to join us on the call. So please introduce yourself, as well as what your business is about. We would like to know you. We would like to, connect with you. Someone that, is from another country, maybe looking to maybe expand into your country, and you just sharing would make all the difference, in that side. And thanks, Linda, for confirming that you can hear me. Thanks, Abosedi, as well, for confirming that you can hear me. I see that we have Somla. I hope I got, again, please forgive me if I get the pronunciation of your name wrongly, from Ivory Coast, who is also present on the call. So again, thank you everybody for joining. We'll still wait for others to join. I know there are still a lot more people, who are looking to join. So I'll just read like the company profile of some of the people who we have and have joined so far. I'll take like 2 to 3 readings, and then we'll just proceed from there. We have Mujramil, who is the founder of Mill and Co, a sustainable fashion company. So if you're looking for a sustainable fashion company, you can speak to Mill and Co. And I think I assume you're from Egypt. I'm not sure if not, you can just state what country you're from as well. Okay, from Nigeria. Oh, fantastic. We also have Opwell, who is joining us from South Africa, Johannesburg. Person is a local fashion brand designer. And I think finally, I'll take this. We have Ebo Elizabeth from Kwara State, Nigeria, who makes liquid soap, and all. So yes, thank everybody for joining. Let's keep the introduction coming. Let's keep the energy going. Very quickly, I would now go ahead to, again, speak about some of the housekeeping rules as well. Please switch on your camera. I would like to see your face. You have to keep your mic muted unless you want to speak, and of course, at that time, we would sort of unmute the mics. But to keep the session engaged, please do well to use the chat box. If you have any question, use the chat box, use your icon to react. If something resonates with you, participate actively. You have about an hour. This session is going to last about an hour, 30 minutes. So please, while you're here, do well to maximize your time and learn, and also share from your wealth of experience. So I will be actively looking at the chat to know, what we are saying or what questions we have. Also, while speaking, if other people have like, deep variance of thoughts, it will be good for you to let them also speak. So I'll speak very quickly about the representatives that we have here, and then they would all get to speak later. But very quickly, before I speak about the representative, our panelists who are here from Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, I will speak about the organizations bringing this to you. So this webinar is brought to you by the Creative Innovation Practice at ICT Africa. So the Creative Innovation Practice at ICT Africa is geared at supporting entrepreneurs, particularly within the creative space, and they do that by connecting creative across Africa, particularly youths and women and men as well, to resources, networks, and knowledge, required to help you thrive. So if you're looking to thrive, you are in the right place. Over the years, they've supported, or ICT Africa has supported over 5,000 entrepreneurs within the fashion creative ecosystem alone, and this has been over 45 African countries. So this is, a major one. We will be learning about what they found out, while supporting creatives in those particular, countries, and what you should be looking at as a business looking to expand into other countries from the world of knowledge. We also have with us our panelists, who is Gladys. So Gladys is a South African fashion manufacturer, a designer, and she's also has a manufacturing house which is known by Gladys Zizakele. Sorry, please forgive the pronunciation. She'll speak more about her business, in a bit when we do the introduction. She's based in South Africa, and she'll be speaking beyond design and production. The company supports skills development and entrepreneurship in fashion and the creative sector. So the panelists that we'll be having today will be, providing from their wealth of experience, great knowledge to us all. And we have Gemini Africa. So Gemini Africa are, they are partner in organizing of this webinar, and they are based out of Egypt, but they support their enterprise support organizations, and they design and implement innovative entrepreneurship program from social development to the creative economy to empowering startups, to MSMEs. So whatever you're looking at in terms of market linkages, fostering inclusive economic growth, they are your go-to ESO for such ideas. And their mission is to drive the growth of entrepreneurial, creative, and social innovation ecosystem by empowering youths, women, and early stage ventures. And finally, we have in Teddy, who is the founder of IDMAG, which is an AI-powered accessibility tech, startup platform, who is at the moment they are leveraging artificial intelligence to look at, how they can use inclusive design to help improve access to opportunities, access to information without limiting, so that no one is left behind in the process of accessing information. So we'll be hearing from Teddy as well. And yeah, so far so good. I will then be calling up all of our moderators, or sorry, our panelists right about now. So first on the list will be Mary Adib. So we can spotlight Mary so that everyone can get to meet her. So Mary is the Senior Development and Innovation Leader who drives the technology strategy and implementation of the National Entrepreneurship Program across sectors, including agriculture, creative industries, housing, and the food system. She leads multi-donor initiatives with partners such as the United Nations, UNDP, British Council, and she oversees the 3M methodology of Gemini Africa, which is matchmaking, mentorship, and money. So she's focused on advancing women within the economic system, and providing them with the necessary support. We are glad to have you join us, Mary. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us again, Mary. And then I would also be introducing Emem Etim. So Emem is the lead of the creative innovation practice at ICT Africa, where she leads and supports with mentorship, business advisory, access to market and finance. And under her leadership, she's been able to provide support to over 5,000 creative entrepreneurs in more than 50 African countries, I beg your pardon. And she's also PMP certified in terms of coordinating the projects that we run at ICT Africa. Nice to meet you, Emem. Emem, please confirm that you're on the call.
Thank you very much, Abraham. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here, and I look forward to our conversation too.
All right, thank you, Emem. And we have Tamer on the call as well. I did talk about his initiative before. He is the founding partner and CEO of IDMAG, an AI-powered accessibility technology startup, who is developing real-time Arabic sign language translation and inclusive digital communication solution. He has a professional background, in property, business development, and fintech. So he has a wide spectrum, sector agnostic, but at the moment, he's building solution that is improving accessibility, leveraging artificial intelligence. So we would like to welcome you to the call. Tamer, please confirm that you can hear me as well.
Yes, Mateo, I can hear you. Thank you for your introduction. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. For those just looking out for Tamer, he will not be able to turn on his video at the moment, but he's actively, with us. So let's do well to just pay attention to the many insights that he will be sharing in the course of the webinar. And Gladys is a South African entrepreneur that is based on working on sustainable fashion in terms of the design. And she also does a lot of business support for entrepreneurs. She is into fashion, hospitality, beauty, and skills development. She's the founder of CSG, and will be walking us through, what she does, as well as, more the other details that we need to know about a brand. Our work has gained international recognition, including showcasing designs at Milan Expo in 2015 and Turin Fashion Week. We are more than happy to have you join us, Gladys. Please confirm that you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much to be on this platform.
All right. Please confirm if you would be able to turn on your video. I cannot see you from my end. Just want to be sure. If it's my internet.
Yes, I am able to. Can you see me
All
now?
right. Yeah, we can all see you. Thank you very much. So very quickly, we would be going to speak about the organizations that are here and how exactly they are, supporting entrepreneurs. Now, why this is critical is it provides us with the foundation that we need in terms of what work is being done and how exactly we can leverage you as an entrepreneur can benefit from this particular session. Once again, thank you for joining this session. But before I hand over to Emem, who will be telling us about the work that ICT Africa has been doing very briefly in just about 2 minutes to support creative entrepreneurs. Just again, for those just joining us, just drop in the chat box what your name is as well and where you're joining us, just very quickly so that we know you're here. Just tell us what your name is and where you're joining us from. What your name is and where you're joining us from. You can use the chat box. So that's in the chat box. I see someone's hand is up. Okay, so I see we have someone from Uganda, from Johannesburg, from Nigeria, from Kenya as well. So we look forward to more of us sharing where we're joining from. So Fatima is joining in from Kenya. Awesome, 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 awesome. All right, so Emem, over to you. Very briefly, tell us about the work that you're doing at ICT Africa and how you're supporting creative entrepreneurs within the organization.
All right, thank you very much, Abraham. Welcome everyone once again. Pleasure to have you all on the call with us. So briefly, the creative innovation practice by ICT Africa will focus on providing all-round business development support for creative entrepreneurs. So we started off with fashion, also doing it in the visual arts, media and entertainment, and just looking at digital creative entrepreneurship as a whole. We've also done this for many entrepreneurs across 50 plus African countries, about over 5,000 entrepreneurs. And we do have I would say our CIP creative growth model that we focus on to ensure that from the beginning to the end of the entire business development process, all the entrepreneurs are properly equipped to scale, to grow, and to expand even beyond their engagement with us. So this process starts off. So we have discover, develop, deploy, and sustain. So it's a 4-stage framework looking at the various processes that we do. So discover is deploying a human design approach to identifying the needs of creative entrepreneurs. Like we all see on the call, we have people that have joined from South Africa, we have people from Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria. There are various contextual nuances to entrepreneurship in our countries, in our regions. So now looking at what are the needs of each entrepreneur in your locality. As you scale, what are the barriers you face that another entrepreneur may not face entirely? So it's discovering and identifying what are the support areas, what are the needs of each entrepreneur, what are the specific tailored business support that each entrepreneur needs. Then we now go into developing. So based on what we've identified at the needs assessment phase, what does each business entrepreneur need? So what are the training gaps? What are the mentorship and coaching? What are the pitching gaps? What are the financing gaps that are needed? And then creating the various structures to ensure that each entrepreneur has these toolkits and these resources to thrive and to succeed. Then after we have discovered, we've developed, now it's time to deploy. So that's where we go into the market access and linkages. So now you have the knowledge. How do we practicalize this as an entrepreneur? How do you price your product properly? How do you ensure that you have the right packaging to ensure that you go from where you currently are to your various customers across the world? What channels of distribution are you using? Do you sell via your website? Do you use existing e-commerce platforms? Do you partner with companies that handle this? What is the best structure for you? And then also with deploying, how do you scale your business beyond your original country or location? Exhibitions, trade fairs, do you want to open partner companies as well in other countries and in other regions? And then we have a very interesting one, which is sustain. I know sustainability has become a really big buzzword, where it's a fundamental core principle of every business. So ensuring that every activity, every process that is done doesn't end just at the initial point of deployment. So looking at sustain is what's the entire ecosystem needed to ensure that these activities that were previously done, that these activities that are previously done are able to be repeated without necessarily having a hand-holding process. So what are the ecosystem of mentors that we can provide? What is the ecosystem of community building? How does a business ensure in their operations there are sustainable systems? So how do you ensure that by year 3, we have checks and balances to ensure that financially you're managing your finances well? You are properly planned, your pricing, your revenue tracking, all of that to ensure that at a certain point you are operating at a place of profit. What are the various sustainable ways that we're looking at you operating your business to benefit not just the environment, but socially as well, and looking at the entire value chain. So that's a huge summary of the way we deploy our support processes. So again, summarizing everything within a short 2 minutes. So we discover with the entrepreneur. Secondly, we develop with the entrepreneur. We deploy, and then we sustain to ensure that the entire life cycle end to end, they have all the support, the toolkit, and the resources needed to thrive.
All right. Thank you very much, Emem, for sharing that, the great work that you're doing at ICT Africa, supporting creative innovations across the continent. And speaking of supporting creatives, the next person that I would be introducing is Gladys. So Gladys is one of, the beneficiaries of the work that ICT Africa does. But, she's had a business before. So she'll just be walking us through, what our business is about. What does she do as a business? And so just basically what she's learned through the course of the program, particularly in terms of support received. And the reason this is critical, particularly for everyone joining on this call, is to help you to be aware of the vast amount of opportunities that creatives or businesses across can leverage, and how you can continue to grow your business irrespective of where you are in this particular age and time. So yeah, Gladys, over to you.
I'm just trying to log in with my laptop. Can you please just let me in so I can just share my screen as well? Can you hear me?
Abraham, you're muted.
Yes, we can hear you. I'm sure that you will be let in with your laptop in a jiffy. But if you could speak to it though, I think we'll just come back to that then because of time, and I'll just go to Mary to speak to the work that Gemini Africa is doing and how they're supporting entrepreneurs as well. Hi, Mary, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Abraham, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for having us with you today. And first of all, I have to say that I'm very, very impressed with what Emem just said, because we kind of complement each other. So Gemini, as you have introduced us, we are a one-stop entrepreneur support organization, mainly focused on Egypt. However, with some intentions and already some activities in building bridges with Africa and the Euromed region, empowering startups and MSMEs with special focus on youth and women in underserved communities. We collaborate with strategic partners and partners like yourselves and like ICT and so on to drive the growth of entrepreneurs, whether they be creatives or working in social innovations, to help them move through their journey and do something that, like move from ideation, move to early stage to actually being in the market with the right tools and the go-to strategy so they can actually grow. We are focused on 4 pillars, basically. One of them, and it's like a major one of the pillars that we work on, is the creative economy and the cinema tech. And I'll talk to you about that in a second. But we're also focused on cross-regional collaborations, as I said, entrepreneurship programs, and so on. Going back to the creative economy and the cinema tech, so basically this is a pillar that we're very, very focused on. And what we do is we support any entrepreneur who is working in the creative industries or in bridging the gap between the cinema and technology. And this is a space that we have been doing for quite a few years now, with the term cinema tech coined and associated with Gemini Africa. How we do this support and how we work in supporting these 4 pillars with a focus on the creative industry is through a methodology that we have created. And it matches very much what Emem just said in terms of providing startups with money, mentorship, and matchmaking. So these are Gemini 3Ms. So we came up with this methodology years ago when we looked at the needs and the gaps that we found in the Egyptian ecosystem here. And we found out that these 3 dimensions are actually something that's going to map to every entrepreneur's needs. So when we're talking about money, what we mean is we support entrepreneurs get access to funding, market opportunities as revenue, and so on and so forth, maybe investment opportunities, or just even learning how to attract funds from donors. So this is the first dimension. The second dimension, which is the mentorship, and what we do is we provide the training, the coaching, the knowledge, and we do that through experts, whether they be like local experts or cross-border experts and so on, but specialized in the sectors where the startups come from. The third pillar is matchmaking, and this is where we connect startups with corporates, with film festivals, with different artistic venues, and also international partners, if that may. So very, very simply put, what we do is we design our programs. The programs have those 3 M's inside of the design of the program. So while we're implementing, we make sure that every startup who joins the program gets these 3 things based on of course, the duration and the stage of each startup, and where we are taking them to from stage 1 to stage 2, or are they just in the beginning of their journey, and so on and so forth. And by the end of the program, after we deliver this methodology, okay, we create an ecosystem for these startups to keep connecting, working together, and growing together through the different activities, and also availing different market opportunities for them along the journey. So once you are a graduate of a Gemini program, you keep in touch with Gemini, you're part of the network, and you keep growing with us. And maybe this will come back in our conversation as we talk about the collaboration and the bridging between borders. So that's it for me for now. And thank you so much for this.
Thank you very much for that amazing, insights about the work that you're doing at Gemini Africa. I think the one that I'm sure that a lot of people would also like to know is the fact that you also provide capital. I know a lot of, if you ask any entrepreneur, what's your most important need? The first thing that most people will say is that they need capital, that is, they need money. But again, beyond the money is the access to the market, It's the capacity, it's the matchmaking, it's the mentorship. These are critical elements that make that make the growth of any business possible. And to speak to that as well, will be one of the entrepreneurs that has been supported by the work that Gemini Africa is doing, and that's the person of Tamer. So Tamer will be telling us about this amazing solution that is worked on and what exactly it is about. I think it's quite insightful in this time when we look at the fact that artificial intelligence is, becoming a center stage, a major topic, but it's the way that artificial intelligence is being leveraged to support, entrepreneurs or support businesses or support professionals. That's the real deal in what Tamer will be sharing. So over to you, Tamer, as you shared from your end.
Thank you very much, Mateo. So quick introduction. My name is Tamer Serour. My company is specifically for accessibility and for people that have ailments and they struggle to integrate within society. The main USP that we have for the company is we directly target the people that have problems with hearing, because we have a USP within our system which allows any integration onto any website or any type of screen. And it also allows a multitude of variations of communication between a deaf person as well as a non-deaf person. Our main focus is inclusivity. Everybody deserves to have the same opportunity. And AI has transformed the world at the moment. Many people look at it as positive, many people look at it as negative. I always say there is no such thing as positive or negative. There's something positive that you could use negatively, and there's something negative that you could use positively. When it comes to AI, there are many, many areas where AI can facilitate and aid humanity. And once I found this opportunity and I started working on it, and I realized I can actually help the community, I can help society, and at the same time, I can do my entrepreneurial business endeavors that I need to do. So for me, it was a godsend. It's a well-rounded process which covers all of the things that mean quite a lot to me. The simplicity within the process, as in there aren't many complicated areas to what we do. It's just a very simple integration. And for people that don't understand, the importance of it is 85% of the non-hearing community have not got the ability to read any written text. So when they go onto a website, they do not have the ability to go through a website. And across the world, there's circa 3% of websites that can actually facilitate some form of aid on a baseline level. But what we've created has given us a full circle solution for several ailments, including dyslexia, including for hearing problems, visual problems, things along those lines. We've gone through a very interesting journey in Egypt because it's not a market that I was very familiar with. However, having Gemini Africa as a very well-established entity in Egypt with the knowledge of the market and the knowledge of the big players within the market, it's aided me in understanding business on a cultural level and also being able to navigate in a way that is very, very different to the market that I was used to, which is the UK market. I think I'll stop here for now, unless there's something else you'd like me to cover.
No, thank you very much. I think that's pretty very helpful. And I think that for everyone that's listening as well, what Tamer just shared speaks to, of course, the work that they do, but also in terms of the relevance when you look at it from the lens of support that the enterprise support organization also makes possible. It speaks to, if you're looking to expand into a new market, there's a need to also have, some sort of level of support that makes that, or either local presence or some level of advisory that makes it, that makes it very helpful for you to be able to provide the best value in that market. And that's what Gemini Africa has been able to do, supporting IDMAG as an organization or as a firm. So now I think that we will now go over to Gladys. So Gladys is one of the, enterprise as well, who has been supported by ICT Africa. And so she will be speaking about the business. As is more of a fashion business, but I will allow her to speak more to the details as well. So over to you, Gladys.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. It really is a pleasure to be part of this. And I see that most of the South African joining, people who have joined are actually the people in my network, that some of them I have mentored, some of them I have assisted in their businesses or advised. So I'm really glad that they are on here. With that said, so see, Gladys is, I'm a businesswoman. I started off as a creative, a fashion designer, and the world of fashion, or the stage of fashion at the current time when I was deciding what to do with my education, brought me a broader scale of things that were possible to do within the fashion industry. And then I ventured into textile.
I'm not sure if it's only me, but I can't hear you, Gladys.
Yeah, same here as well.
Yeah, we can hear Gladys.
We
Yeah.
lost you.
Okay, I think we'll just wait for Gladys for our connection to be better. So we'll just go ahead to ask the other questions from our panelists. But once Gladys is back, she's going to do like an introduction, quick introduction of a business. Gladys, please confirm that you can hear us now. I see that you're on video, so confirm that you can hear me. Hi, Gladys. Okay, I think because of our time, can you hear us, Gladys?
But as long as you can hear me, can you?
Maybe you can just use the audio. We can at least on my end, we can barely hear you if you're speaking.
Right now, I'm on audio. I'm not on headsets anymore. I removed them.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay. As I was saying, that obviously everything that I have done has kind of like connected it to one another. So the fashion, the textile, the beauty, the hospitality, and also the wine that we have recently launched. I come from, and also the mentorship. So the mentorship has been a space where it has allowed me to share what I have learned, what I have mastered, and the markets that I have been able to penetrate, like the European market, the African market as well. So now we're also looking at the US market, and also what do you call this, the continental market in general. I'm not sure what you would like me to share. If you could just walk me through what you would like me to share, and then I'll just go through.
No, I think you've done a perfect job. So I think we're just basically to introduce your business, what you do, as well as maybe particularly how you're being a part of the program. I know you were a part of the, incubation program by ICT Africa, and how that has also helped your business to take to grow as well.
Yes. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. I don't know if you're done. No, just
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with the introduction. I mean, if you'd like me to extend further, I will.
No, that's very fine. Okay, so I think the next set of questions are, based off, the many work that we have done. I'll be asking that to Mary. So Mary, you did talk about your 3 M's and how you're actively supporting, entrepreneurs. It would be good to know from the work that you do currently, what would you say are, particularly if you are to support entrepreneurs, what skills and what kind of businesses would you be looking to support, to provide either, capacity building to or matchmaking to? What kind of businesses, would you be looking to support as an organization?
Okay, thank you everyone for the question. So, so as I mentioned, and you, thanks to you, you also mentioned that we support mainly social enterprises and creative enterprises. And since we're here with creatives around the table and like listening to us from all around the world. So I will focus on the creative industries here. And when we're talking creative industries, we're talking creative industries like as a full-fledged umbrella, that anyone who's doing anything that's creative. So it's design, of course, it's fashion, but most importantly, it's stuff that's related to performing arts, to dancing, to anything that can uses art as a means for economic sustainability. So if you're doing like visual arts and you have a project that, like you're relying on this talent to actually create money, this is where we come and where we would like to support. Okay, so our umbrella is very big. Another thing and another dimension that we really focus on that is related to creative industry is the cinema tech. And let me talk now a little bit about that, as I've shortly mentioned it in the introduction. And cinema tech is a term that we have coined back in 2020. And basically what it means, it's entrepreneurs working in technology that serves the cinema. Of course, back then, AI was not as strong as it was, and maybe Tamer can second that as well. But back then, it was very, very rare to find software engineers and developers and so on focus on creating something that would serve the cinema industry specifically. And we found that gap. Okay, we found the need in the filmmaking industry. And I'm talking here about Egypt mainly as we started this track. And you know how it is always with the filmmaking and media and whatever. It's like an elephant. It's not very easy to get into that sector. So we started to discover that there are entrepreneurs who do a lot of platforms, and they use technology in different interesting ways that can be customized and can be tailored for the filmmaking industry. And since as Gemini Africa, we are affiliated with one of the biggest film festivals here in Egypt, as it's part of our holding group, and that's the Guna Film Festival. So we thought, okay, maybe we can start this track where we look for entrepreneurs who are interested in using technology to serve and support the filmmaking industry. So whether it be casting platforms, whether it be animation tools and stuff like that, whether it be platforms that help in scouting for locations, maybe things related to costumes, props, whatever it is. And we started looking for those entrepreneurs, and we actually were approached by someone, like the word was out there that we are interested in this type of businesses. And we found out that these entrepreneurs exist, but they're lacking the three things we just said: the money and the mentorship and the matchmaking. And most importantly, the matchmaking, okay? Because some of them, they were as software engineers or as developers or what have you, they were okay in terms of the knowledge, but they could not, crack that path and get into the filmmaking industries. So we started tailoring those programs that serve the cinema tech startups, and we work with them specifically with giving them access to market through the film festival. So we started first locally with local film festivals like Guna, as I mentioned, the Cairo Film Festival. Also, we have a very nice women focused festival in Aswan, and then we started going, like cross borders, and we started giving them opportunities to go to Venice, to go to Cannes, to go to other festivals around the globe, where they can talk about what they're offering, talk about the softwares that they're doing and so on, or just the solutions that they're offering to the filmmakers. And it started to grow in that term. And we found out, of course, that there are a lot of other festivals worldwide that are working with where that is. But for us in Egypt and for Africa, we found that this kind of bridging is not there. And it's not only related to the geography of it, but because no one actually knew that there are these kinds of startups and those kinds of ideas in terms of the filmmaking industry. So if going back to your question and to stay focused on that, so it's the big umbrella of the creative industries, and there are special tracks for the cinema tech. Last but not least, we also have special programs that we call for creative makers. And in that sense, we're talking about people working in maybe like different sectors that are not clearly associated with the creative industries, but however, they use art for different purposes, for education, for awareness and stuff like that. So there's also avenues for that, for advocacy as well, and so on. So we have the way we work is we have different programs, and each program serves like multiple sectors under that program using the Gemini 3Ms. So, but startups and entrepreneurs are enrolled in the program that matches most their industry and also their growth stage. So if it's an early stage, then we match you to a program like that, or if it's like more advanced and so on and so forth. And like we just said, you go through the journey of the 3 M's, and by the end, we focus a lot with the matchmaking. And now to answer the first question you said about the money, especially for creative industries, and it's always a challenge, and especially when we start speaking to creative entrepreneurs. Okay, so availing money is quite challenging, and I agree with you, and everyone needs the money. But the way we work is we try to work through the matchmaking pillar to reach the money pillar. Okay, so through different introductions to corporates, to private sector, to filmmakers, and so on and so forth, we try to avail the money. Maybe we don't give the funds ourselves, but through our holding, of course, company, there are some opportunities that we can avail, as well as through the matchmaking that we do with the different partners that we work with. So yes and no. So yes, in a certain way that we do actually give people access to money, but no, not directly from Gemini Africa, but through our network and our.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure that, the participants are learning a great deal about the work that you do. And I think more importantly, how they can plug from it and also position their business to be able to explore the opportunities. I think my next question is to Emem. I know that from your introduction, you did mention about the work that, you've done and that ICT Africa is doing, and that you've supported creatives across, 50 countries. So currently we have several regional blocks in Africa. And there are a lot of them from ECOWAS to COMESA, all of these regional blocks play some parts in terms of trying to facilitate trade. And then more recently, we have the AFCTA, who has been able to create a structure. So from a structural lens, Africa has there are about 55 member countries in the AFCTA, but the real goal of the AFCTA is to say, can we bundle that markets together and increase the number such that more like the enterprise in Ghana can now assess opportunity in Morocco. A business in Tanzania can also sell to another business in Mauritius. So essentially, we are able to trade within ourselves and also improve the value chain. From the work that ICT Africa has done, and from the network that you have in terms of collaborations among entrepreneurs, can you share with us how are you seeing our businesses currently partnering, maybe using digital tools across the various countries? So our businesses in Nigeria, for example, or in Ghana, partnering with businesses in Tunisia. Like, what examples do you have that you can speak to from maybe the programs that you have done and what we can learn from that as well?
All right, thank you very much, Abraham. That's a very layered question. As you were speaking, I was connecting the many dots in my head. Okay, so like mentioned earlier, with our various programs, we deploy a Pan-African approach. So we're very skilled with working with various entrepreneurs across the regions we have. So we have the Northwest, East, South, and then also the Central. We tend to forget Central sometimes. Those are the 5 regions that we do have. So with the first thing would be actually finding out or being aware of the existing work that is being done across the continent. So as a fashion designer, if you are seeking to sell your products or across the continent, finding out firstly what are the available channels of sale. So looking at AFCFTA, for example, there is the GTA, so that is the Guided Trade Association. So we're looking at with that, there has been an initial deployment of trade within certain regions. Just to note that this is still being worked on. So we're still hoping that within the next couple of years, decades, we'll get to a point where all the African countries are fully ratified. Just for a foundational knowledge, so everyone is on the same page as we go. A full ratification across all the countries means that I'm in Nigeria and I can sell to Morocco, I can sell to South Africa, with most of the duty costs being covered. So it's almost like a zero trade game. We're now removing those embargoes for trade. So currently, not all countries are currently ratified. So if you go to the AFCFTA website, for example, you need to look through they call it the e-tariff framework. So you'd get that information. You look at your product, so whether it be an art piece, a fashion product, whether it be electronic goods, and see what are the available countries that I can currently sell within this framework. And then you can utilize that for the lower cost or no cost trade options for your products. And then for countries that are not necessarily within this ratification yet, so it's still an ongoing process. And by the end of the year, we'll have further updates on more countries that have that trade available. That's where we have the option of digital trade that comes in, logistic partners, online marketplaces that ensure that you can sell beyond where you are locally. And that is the easiest advantage any entrepreneur has, especially now, because you are not necessarily thinking of setting up a local shop yet. You're not necessarily thinking of setting up partnerships legally within the country. So it's an easier way to get first mover entry into various countries across the continent. So what are the online marketplaces you can use? We have Anchor, we have Jumia. You can always access this platform simply by just setting up an account. And the great thing about most of these marketplaces is you are delegating the distribution and the logistics to the company. So yes, there are agreements on the payment structure. So you tend to maybe give 40% to the company, you get 60%, but they are covering that cost of distribution and logistics on your end. Then as you scale and grow, there's also the place of owning your own value chain end to end. So that's where you have your own website. Then you can integrate with payment gateways to receive payments, and having logistic partners where you have now the end-to-end ownership of your own trade process. So with one major thing with scaling regionally and across the continent, and that's a conversation that is even becoming more common as we grow within the continent, would be your IP protection. So how do we make sure that across the continent things are being protected? And that's where standardization comes in, of quality, of legal protection. So making sure that when we say a pattern in Nigeria, what is also identified as a pattern is identified as a pattern in Egypt. Because then that's where issues come in. I can say something is in my design, but to you it's a repeatable and it's a placeholder that is being used. But we're not there yet. We're still in the process of making things standardized across the creative industry. So I would say it's a two-pronged approach. For the things that we are excelling at, let's leverage it, research, leverage, and ensure that we are using what is available. And at the same time, we're simultaneously building what is currently still being developed. So for example, with the creative industry, there is a huge informal market that we're not currently addressing. So now, if we're being very honest, everyone on this call is operating in a formal market already. The fact that you have access to internet, you are operating at a formal level. So there is also that conversation of infusing the formal market with the informal market, because there are about 60 to 70% of creative entrepreneurs that don't even play in the formal market. So with that, and there's one way that we can also bridge the gap. So for example, with AFCFTA trade, there is a framework where, let's say you are going through a trade process and you realize that formally all the process are good, but informally there were some barriers you face, whether with the personnel at various border entries or your goods were delayed longer than communicated. There is a system where you can report these things so that can now be addressed and people can find trade to be easier. So in summary, first off, we work with what we do have while we are simultaneously building what needs to be improved on. And over the years and months, we'll definitely see great improvement in trade across the region and across the continent as well.
All right, thank you very much, Emem, for that, masterclass on how to trade across the continent. I would be asking my next question to Gladys and thereafter to Tamer. But I think I'm asking because Gladys also was a part of the Fashionomics Africa Incubator program that, Emem sort of also was part of led the coordination. And the reason I'm asking is because even within an informal sense, there is some sort of country relationship that some of the participants. So sort of look at it as this, that if you have like a network of, fashion entrepreneurs that are all from across, over 50 countries that are in the same place, you begin to know, maybe the Nigerian, for example, has the textile. Maybe you have some sort of fabrics that, you know, are better in certain areas, or maybe certain places are better with, you know, within the value chain, and that you can leverage. So I think my question to you, Gladys, will be, from your experience, you know, in South Africa, in Egypt, sorry, yeah, in South Africa, in I think Italy rather, not Egypt, I meant to say Italy, and you know, just working with fashion entrepreneurs as well. How has, you know, how has trade been from a an entrepreneur's point of view for you? And then what challenges, so what wins have you seen doing business within Africa and outside of Africa? And then what roadblocks do you still experience, and what are your thoughts concerning that?
Thank you for the question, and thank you, as well. So let me start by my journey within Fashionomics Africa. My journey within Fashionomics Africa started in 2023, and what Fashionomics Africa gave me was an understanding of the pillars that I needed to have within the business in order for my business to be viable, or for me to be able to approach any investor or partners that I wanted to bring into the business. And they assisted me in building the fundamental building blocks, so that when I sit at the table, then I am capable of speaking to my business and being able to actually stand obviously for it and answer the difficult questions, whether it was financial, whether it was the projections that I had presented. I could actually speak to the truth, really speak to them. So that's what Fashionomics gave me. With that, then I took that and I brought it into within the business that I had entered with, and I saw the return of that investment, because it was time invested. Fashionomics Africa invested in me as well. And when I accessed my first funding from a private entity, that's when I understood that actually that is very useful. That's why in 2025, when they suggested that I re-enter again, I did. And I did not enter mainly for the prize money, but mostly for the tangible information that I gained from the program. So I advise everybody that's on here, if you have never been on, please register, because it is going to help you propel your business. That said, let's start with the difficulties that I faced within the African continent, or South Africa per se, and also Europe. So in South Africa, the biggest challenge was people understanding and believing what my product actually would do for them. Now, I had to refine that as well. I had to refine how I presented the product, and so on and so forth. People were willing to pay a premium price, but I wasn't able to communicate why. And the why was my biggest hurdle. And once I was able to clear that and to clean that up and polish it, then I was able to actually access the market, and I was actually able to branch into most of my business. Most of my business is actually established in South Africa. The only business that is selling internationally is the fashion business, CSG. We are selling in France. And for me to get there, I had to work with some of the fashion designers that have created a community to then allow fashion designers to not carry the load of the cost of exports, the cost of the fashion shows, and on their own. So it's a group of fashion designers that we are. It's flying solo. We own a shop in Paris, and all of us have departments within that store in Paris. And what that has brought me, it has given me access to a market that actually appreciates or is ready for the product that I'm currently selling, which is a 100% sustainable product. And that has also given me access to the US market as well. So by not engaging or penetrating the market on my own as an individual fashion designer, I have been able to actually tap into prominent magazines. What do you call this? Oh God, I forgot the word. I forgot the word. Anyway, it's a platform that allows you to showcase and sell your product. And also they do the advertising, they take care of the marketing, they take care of everything. All I need to do is produce my product, make sure that it meets the HS codes when I am obviously exporting, so that I can be able to leverage on the free trade when it comes to 100% sustainable products, and therefore be able to sell in those markets. So that's what Fashionomics has done for me, and it has assisted me in actually implementing everything that I have learned within the program in the 2 years that I did, to then bring my businesses to the point that they are. Within the training space, which is the NPO, what I do is I take what I know, what I have acquired, because not everybody has access to internet, not everybody has access to all those things. So I take what I have learned and then I bring it to the local communities where it's very difficult for them to build their own living capabilities. So I take it to them and then I train them on the skills of whatever it is that they're producing. It has to meet the quality that is being demanded on the market. It is not enough to just produce a garment whereas it is not refined. It is not enough to produce a jewelry whereas it is not defined. So I find entrepreneurs that have already started, I look at their product and their businesses, and then I help them to dismantle it and rebuild it, but in a much more feasible way, and also their product, to refine their product. And I usually give them 2 years to do that. So we take them and say, forget about the money, forget about what you want to sell right now. You have to build a long-term product or a long-term business, because if you're looking at, I have to sell this product right now, you are not going to access the markets that you wish to access, which is the global market. So we need to come back and clean your product and clean your business and make it. You have to comply with your countries, with our countries, SARS and whatnot, and therefore also your product must also meet the requirement. And once we have done that, then they have a much broader or larger possibility to actually knock on doors and say, this is my product, like I did. So I take them on that journey, the very same journey that I took, I take them on that journey. And what I need is what the two, Gemini Africa and Fashionomics Africa, they give support to what I do, because I understand that when then they get to your platforms, they would be ready to actually compete with the other, and also collaborate with other businesses across Africa and also internationally. So I do the groundwork mostly in that space, where I help them to actually refine their business and their product.
Thank you very much, Gladys, for that, for sharing, from your wealth of insight. When I'll be asking Tamer, I know Tamer's business is one that I would like you to actually speak a lot more about. And I'm saying that because for me, and I know that it's not something that a lot of us are familiar with, especially, and I think it's also very important, especially for creatives as well. So it's something that maybe when you're designing your products, when you're creating your solution, accessibility is something that, most times we're not, and when we're talking about building a business, you're looking to go global, you have to look at it from various lens, like what exactly will give you an advantage, what exactly will separate you from that lens. So I think I would like if you could speak to your business in terms of the differentiation of it, that's on one hand, and then also more importantly, how Gemini Africa has, supported it through mentorship and incubation, maybe to better understand the Egyptian market. But beyond the Egyptian market, I'm also aware that, you had done some sort of work with Saudi Arabia. So if you could just speak to all of these elements from a lens of what should an entrepreneur be focusing on how should they differentiate themselves as entrepreneurs?
Fantastic question, Roseo. I'm going to begin with basically the initial thought process for the reason I came close to this sector given that I was in the financial sector before that and the digital financial sector also before that, is firstly my nephew. He has an audio issue and he wears hearing aids. So I was very aware of certain things that the general public wouldn't be aware about when it comes to hearing loss and how to deal with someone who has a hearing loss and what kind of impact it has on them. I was a bit lucky because life or God or the universe, depending on your belief system, kind of threw me into cryptocurrency, digital wealth management, which was very, very soulless, and it was very, very money oriented, absolutely money oriented. There was no community elements, nothing along those lines. I started to lose my soul over time, and something which I perceived as negative happened at the time. And my company, there was an internal issue with the company, and my shares were somehow taken from me, and I was put away from that system, from that world, which at the time, again, I perceived as negative. But very shortly after, I was doing consultancy for the company, which is the mother company to my company at the moment. And I saw that they were working within this accessibility sector, and I was very, very happy to see that there's a sector that I could work within where there's financial gain, there's community gain, and there's a big, big gap in the market that needs to be fulfilled that hasn't really been addressed adequately over the time. So when I saw the opportunity, I was doing consultancy for the business at the time. And as time went by and I saw the success of the business, I realized they did not have a big presence in Africa. They were predominantly covering the Middle Eastern region. So I decided to leave the UK, move to Egypt in order to create this process in Egypt and introduce this AI technology to Egypt. Although I knew that I had a lot of boundaries and a lot of barriers to entry when it comes to Egypt, because the Egyptian market, I think the best word to use is it's a very unique market, and they have a very, very unique psychology towards how they do business, and they have a very, very unique psychology towards where they spend their money and how much of their money they spend. It's a very, very different mentality to Saudi Arabia, for example, and those other countries where they have a lot of budget but not much expertise. In Egypt, it's kind of the reverse. There's a lot of expertise. There aren't that much or that many great budgets that you can work with. So entering that market, although I was in business for many, many years prior to that, I felt like I was kind of going back to primary school and relearning what I'm needing to do, which I don't shy away from a challenge. I don't mind that at all. But I'm also very, very conscientious that I have a capacity, I have a limited knowledge, I have a limited outreach. Me entering a business meeting and speaking to an Egyptian who has lived in Egypt is very different to having an Egyptian from Egypt speaking to the Egyptian in Egypt. It's a very, very different entry, and it's a very, very different psychology towards the entrance. So luckily, as I was in Egypt and there was an event in El Guna, which is where I met Gemini Africa, and I went out there to represent my company to Gemini Africa. Luckily, there was a wonderful, wonderful exchange of energy. And I mean that, and I genuinely mean that, from the lowest to the highest person in the company. It was just beautiful. It felt like it was a family. Everybody was genuinely wanting to help, wanting to aid in any way they possibly could. When I'd ask a question, I'd get answered 120% of the answer that I was expecting. So I felt like, okay, I have a backbone in the country, and the backbone that I have in the country is quite a substantial backbone because its social net worth in Egypt is wonderful. The way that Gemini Africa is perceived in Egypt is also wonderful. So whenever it is that I'm entering into a discussion with a company or anything like that, as a collaborative person with Gemini Africa, it creates a much easier process. It's much more symbiotic when the conversation is going on. And because there is an Egyptian entity slash body slash person involved, you tend to skip a lot of the bureaucracy that you would otherwise be absolutely lost in and sent all around or sent around in circles. So Gemini's kind of giving me that infrastructure where I understand that by entering with them, I am strong, and I understand by entering with them, if there's information missing from me, it will be provided to me by someone within Gemini Africa in order to make sure that I'm strong. Because the stronger I become, well, that's the ethos that I've got across from them, is that the stronger I become, the stronger they become. We all become one entity, and there's just a beautiful synergy between everyone. Um, my business is slightly different to the other businesses that I'm hearing about over here, but I'm just going to give my very, very quick inputs towards when it comes to cross-border businesses. The knowledge is very important. The technology is very important. Making sure you have a very clear understanding of your operational costs are very important. Being able to have somebody within the logistical process of what you're doing, someone who has been through the entire cycle prior to you coming in, again, is something that has value beyond one's understanding until they go into that process and realize the amount of problems that can arise, the amount of issues that you might not even acknowledge and then find out down the line, which messes with your financial projections, etc. And also community is very, very important within within business, generally speaking. The world's kind of put us in a position where it's us versus them, or it's me versus you. We're no longer in that place. We're becoming more conscious. We're becoming more aware that unity is power. So that's, I guess, my 2 cents with regards to that. I hope I've helped with anything.
Yes, fantastic. I think I mean, you've done very well, and you've also helped me to sort of ask my next question. But before I ask the next question, I want to just say that if you have any question, feel free to use the chat. We're currently looking at them, and we will start taking the questions in a bit. So just feel free to, if you have any question, maybe based off what anybody has said, something that is not clear to you, you would like to get, better input around something, we'll be more than, excited to take the questions, as well. But you please use the chat for now. I see someone's hand is up. I think the chat would work so that we can keep the flow going steady. But I think my question is based off the last point by Tamer, and I think he has already started answering it. Is more around if a business is looking, and this is more to MM and Mary, if a business is looking to expand into other countries. And this is critical, especially for, every business on this call at one point or the other are either already, maybe doing it or they are planning to do it. So if a business is looking to expand into other countries, what would you say are the key, variables or the key factors to look at? Because like Tema was saying, sometimes, it's easy to overlook. Sometimes you think that maybe because you've done something in a certain country, you just need to replicate it in another country, and then you go all out and then realize that, oh, it's not working. You're losing money, you're losing time, and then the little cash that you have, you're not losing all of that because you're trying to expand. And then if you're not careful, that can also affect the growth, of your business. So I think I'll just go in this order, MM, and then Mary, you can then build off what MM has also done. So yeah, MM, over to you.
Thank you very much, Abraham. So Tamer already highlighted a few things, to be honest, as he was rounding up. So I would say the first thing is knowledge. And I would say knowledge from the entrepreneur to your environment and from the environment to the entrepreneur. So from entrepreneur to the environment, what does your product actually offer? What's that unique selling point that your product, your service offers to the market? And the reason you need to know the why of this is so that you know what is the need it matches in the various markets. So if I am selling a product that addresses, let me look for something that we've not necessarily mentioned. Okay, let's say I'm an artist that sells art. What the community in South Africa views as art, maybe in the preservation of culture and our heritage. It's the major selling point. So you communicate your product that way to that market. And maybe when we come to Morocco, for example, the community in there is concerned with, okay, how do we ensure that craftsmanship is preserved in our own art? So you make sure that you highlight that element of your product to that market. So you know, what does my product or service offer to the environment? And then from the environment to the entrepreneur, it's not a blanket product or service. You communicate that my product is meeting a need that I see is in your market. So if we need a more efficient display of our culture, you bring in the fact that my product gives effective storytelling of the history of um, weaving in this art piece, or looking at the history of craftsmanship in this country. But if it's another country where the issue is, okay, we want to use art as a means of employment for our youth, then you communicate that within your business, how you work with young artisans, or you ensure that you have mentorship schemes within schools to ensure that the learning techniques we have don't die with this current generation, but it's passed across. So that's the first thing in terms of knowledge. So you have that product market fit. Then once you have your knowledge on lock, it's now with the moving forward in sale. What are the operational structures that need to be in place? So does your pricing ensure that it covers logistics? Does it ensure that it covers the various distribution channels? Are you sure that your unit cost economics are unlocked? So if I sell this product 200 times, is there a potential profit margin that will be made? Or it's just, oh, I feel like it will be $100 or 100 naira is a good price, and we'll just go with that. And then once you have all of that unlocked, is ensuring that you now have the various partners, community to help with the various processes. So who is handling your logistics, who is handling distribution, and then also that community element, who can support me on ground to provide context that I may not necessarily have. So on an online level, what are some common marketplaces that we can use? Like we mentioned earlier, there's Anchor, there's Africa, there's Jumai, and various places that we can use to leverage growth. And then for more of a physical presence, can I partner with existing organizations that are already on ground? They're doing what I am doing. So is there a trade show that I can benefit from? Are there concept stores where I can sell my products or services in? For more technological based products, like what Tamer is offering with the product, what are the private sector players that can integrate this technology on their streaming services, on their websites? Can companies integrate this within their organizations? So looking at the full scale of the various levels of partnerships that you can have. And I think the last thing I would also say is it's not a one-time thing. So sometimes as we go into the market, we think it's one and done. So always have an iterative approach to what you're doing. So something may have worked now, and in the next 3 to 6 months, your market wants something different. So it's okay to go back and redo the entire process and ensure that you are always assessing real time to ensure that you're scaling the right way. You have the knowledge, you have the resources, the partnerships to also support as you scale.
Thank you very much, Emem. And we already have some questions that are coming in. So in addition to the question that I asked earlier, Mary, if you could also speak particularly about, how, if there's also a symbiosis opportunity that you see between fashion and cinema based off the work that Gemini Africa does. Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for the question. So first of all, I'll be building my answer based on what Gladys, Tamer, and Emem said, because we're complementing each other's vision just from different perspectives. And so before going into what exactly Egypt can offer to these two specific sectors, there are a few things that I wanted to reflect upon very briefly. So because our existence here now, and this is basically the role of Gemini African ICT, and it is connecting the people, because basically Africa does not lack any talent. We just lack the connection of the ecosystems. That's one thing. Okay, there are lots of startups, but we still need to connect together. That's another thing, and this is something that Gladys mentioned in her model, and I love the model she mentioned in this context. Also, creative industries in Africa can be like a borderless economy, because creative industries kind of like a product, it can cross borders easily. Partnerships is the real infrastructure for innovation in Africa. And that is also something that I will get back to, because based on what everyone has said, partnerships is the way to actually expand and grow. Also, inclusion of everyone, that's also something that obviously everyone agrees upon. So also based on what Tamer said, it's like, do not turn any opportunities down. Always think that connect, even if you're at the growth stage, if that's the case, always be part of something, because being part of something is the way for you to, as an entrepreneur, especially as a creative entrepreneur, to actually be seen and heard and access different markets. So if we're expanding through different countries and so on, we need to understand the needs. And how do we understand the needs of different countries? It is through connecting with people who actually work in the local ecosystems. So here now I'm offering for everyone around the table and on the webinar to actually connect with us to understand more about the gaps that exist in the creative industry ecosystem in Egypt. And so we can tell them what is actually needed so they can work on their offerings, their products and so on, to actually fill an existing need in Egypt. So that only happens through partnerships and connecting together. Also, being able to work on what is like the identifier for these for each one of the startups here. This is also something that comes out of discussions like this, maybe a little bit more focused on specific industries or specific sectors, but this kind of discussion is what's going to give Gladys and Tamer and everyone
I cannot hear Mary. I don't know if it's my network or it's...
No, the screen froze. The screen froze for a second.
Oh, okay. We'll just give her a brief moment. I know she's trying to connect. While that is going on, I think I'll just go straight to asking, and maybe also building off what she already said, but particularly to Gladys. There is a question that I would love her to answer, and that speaks to our particular product, um, which basically is how long does the biodegradation process usually take for your garments? And what is your price point, and how do you make the product accessible? As sustainable fashion can sometimes be expensive and difficult to sell in the mass market. So if you could keep it also, because we're already beginning to try to round up in the next 15 minutes. So if you could keep it concise in terms of the biodegradability of your garments and also the price points around it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that question. So the biodegradability of our product is 4 to 6 weeks on a landfill or underground. And because the product is, it has natural dyes and it's 100% sustainable, then it has zero impact on the ground that it would be buried on, and it turns the soil into a fertilizer. So it does both things. And then in terms of price point, initially it was very expensive. It depends on where the raw material is produced and how it is produced, and also whether you would need international transportation in order for it to get to you, and then for the finished product to get to store. So what I did with that is that I cut the cost by 85% by bringing the production of the raw material within the country, and therefore also streamlining the production. The production is we shortened the steps of textile production or yarn production, and with that, using new technologies and also anything that allows us to shorten that process. So our yarn production goes generally the normal yarn production takes 4 steps. Ours takes 2 steps. So we're saving energy, we're saving time, and we are increasing production. With that, then we are able to bring down the cost of the finished product. So our garment used to cost, there was a suit, the first suit that I ever made was 60,000 rands. And because of the raw material cost. And then we managed to bring down the textile cost from 800 rands a meter to 120 rands a meter, and therefore now our suit is accessible from 3,000 rands all the way to 10,000 rands, which is a huge change. So that's what has allowed us to bring our product to accessibility.
Thank you very much, Gladys, for providing that answer. I hope it has answered Inky's question. Mary, we are happy to have you back. Please confirm that you can hear me now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, so you can just, I think you were about rounding up your point, so you could just continue on that point, and then we'll
Yes.
take other questions.
Yeah, I'll just add one small point to what I was mentioning here, and it is also based on a few things that Tamer has mentioned, and it is with the focus on money, okay? And that's something that I want to share with everyone here, because when you're focused on money, on attracting investments and so on, you need to make sure that you are money smart in terms of the pricing, in terms of like where your product stands in the market, and so on and so forth. And this is something that we see a lot with the creative entrepreneurs we work with. So they have an amazing product that is actually very attractive and everything. They're not very, very aware of how to position it in terms of pricing and marketing and so on. Also, when they do receive any kind of funding, sometimes it happens that the funding goes into marketing, which is an amazing thing, but not the right kind of marketing. Okay, so these are things that we work on with the startups that join us. But now I'm giving this shout out to Emem that we need to work together, because these things are different between the different countries. And if we're speaking here on this panel that we need to like bridge between borders, then we need to come up with a sort of like guidelines and like guiding rules that our creative startups from all the countries that we are serving, both of us, okay, where they will understand these things, the value of money in terms of the pricing and so on and so forth, the value of different markets, and how to be spending the investment and the funds that you get, because these are areas like we have the best entrepreneurs out there, but then they kind of fall into these traps. And the last thing here to that point is the partnerships, the importance of partnerships. So we as ESOs are partnering together to be able to create an ecosystem that like crosses borders, and our startups from both of like graduates from our programs and so on should be following the same strategy and working with the same mindset of partnership. We have models of Gladys and Tamer, and I'm sure lots of others, amazing entrepreneurs there that have succeeded and have reached where they are because they are actually doing these things. So I don't want to take more than my time, and I see lots of questions. So back to you, Abraham, and I hope I did not use so much of my time.
All right, thank you very much. I think that you've sort of spoken to both the present and the future. So I would ask like 3 questions, and then we'll wrap the session up. But I wanted to speak to something that you said, and which is very critical. This webinar is not the end of this conversation. That's one thing I want to note, right? So in the same way that Gemini Africa and ICT Africa are connecting together to have this conversation, one of the things that I know will be an offshoot of this as well is to see how that we can create frameworks that makes this connection possible. I see that as some of the questions that are also coming up as well from this. So some of them we would answer now, but some of them we would also we'll put in place processes or structures that we can share that everyone on this webinar and beyond can always refer to as a structure for connection. And also I'm going to ask Emem a question, and thereafter I would allow Tamer answer the next question, but then Gladys can build off that as well, because it's always fashion specific. I think that Tamer might have like some context around that. But to Emem, someone, which is Elizabeth, is asking, says, I'm so glad to be a part of this session. My question is on capacity building and marketing skill of my products, right? So I think the person is basically trying to say, how can they build, we talked about knowledge, so how can they build their knowledge? How can they better market their products as well? You can layer that, because of time, just trying to band some questions together. You can also layer that along the person who has a question around barriers. So when it comes to selling across country, there seems to be a barrier, which is the one of payments, right? So do you have any thoughts around how someone can navigate, that sales point or advertising across various countries? So those are like one question, and then I think I would sort of repeat the question for Tamer and Gladys thereafter.
All right, thank you so much.
So let's
So I'll
keep it
take
short
them.
as well. I know there's a lot of questions to answer, but because of our time,
Okay.
let's try and just keep it short here.
All right, no worries at all. So quickly, so capacity building, I would start off firstly, look at it from two angles, a theoretical and a practical. So the theoretical element is the various programs that ourselves at ICT Africa, Gemini Africa will do as well, ensuring that you plug yourselves into these programs. Most times, these programs tend to be free or subsidized, and so you get the theoretical knowledge of everything about your business. So the building up your business structure, financing, pricing, branding, marketing, like you've mentioned. So that would cover the theoretical element. And then also don't underestimate research beyond these programs because you know the intricacies of your product or your service. So there is still that important point of you doing your own research to identify the gaps that you may exist and even the possibilities that exist within your sector. Then a practical element is so now going for physical exhibitions, conferences, sessions like this, where you hear the practical roadmaps that people have navigated. So you can learn from someone that has done this, someone that is maybe 2 or 3 years ahead of you, and you can replicate and even improve or refine based on things that they have said. Then for marketing, first off is to know your why. So at the core of marketing is storytelling. So what are you selling? Who are you selling to? What are the messages that appeal to them? So once you have those three questions in there, that's when it's easier to build your marketing plan around that. So with marketing comes in with your team as well. You definitely can't do it alone. So most times as a creative, your core focus is on the creative direction, the product, the service. You would also need a team, people to come in to help you sell the story behind the product, the service, the vision, the company that you're building. And then also with marketing, don't be afraid to share your story while you're building. I think sometimes we wait till it's more established, but sharing while you're building is what helps to draw in the community. Because I came across you 3, 4 months ago. This is where you're at. And now we can see that you sold to 100. Next time I come across your story again, you sold to 1,000. So it's easier for me to buy into your story that way. And then for the last point with pricing, so first off, I would say, referencing the earlier thing I said, let's leverage what currently exists. So I'll just pinpoint 3 major payment gateways that you can look at that they operate across Africa. So we have things like Paystack, Flutterwave. You can integrate those into your websites and into the channels through which you distribute. Then the last one also is the PAP system from AFCFTA. So the PAPS is currently still within 19 out of the 40 countries that are ratified. So you need to do research for your country as well as the desired countries you want to sell to. But the way the PAPS system works is there are certain banks that operate across Africa that are registered onto the system. And once you're registered, they now handle the end-to-end distribution of finances. The difference with this is, so with others, you tend to pay in dollars. So the Flutterwave, the Paystack for other countries. But with the PAPS countries, I can send in Naira and Gladys receives in Rand in South Africa. So it eliminates that dollar barrier in terms of payment. So yeah, those are the summary points I would share. And I hope I didn't take so much of time, Abraham. Let's
No
see.
problem at all. Yeah, I think you did answer. I think if I were to add something as well, especially about trade, is to leverage, I think Emem has mentioned that as well, is to leverage existing marketplace that are already selling within Africa. So you don't have to, look at those logistics barriers from your end. So an example would be within one of our program, we have a business called Ajoa. So if you look at ajoa.com, it's a business that supports fashion entrepreneurs that are particularly within sustainable business, sustainable fashion. And you can just sort of do your research about them and also check out other platforms as well that can facilitate trade on that end. I'm going to ask like a very quick one from Tamer and Gladys. One of the things that has been observed is that, and I think even when Gladys was speaking, it looked like there's a lot of trade going on because she had mentioned, selling to, in Paris and all, but there seems to not be much, trade within Africa and that on that end. So what would you recommend? What would you advise? And I think even from, the background that you have, Tamer, in terms of, fintech and finance, how would you what would be your recommendation on how to facilitate inter-border trade, within African countries? Of course, also beyond African countries as well, over if you're looking to ship outside Africa. But so I think you can start with within Africa and also outside of Africa.
So when it comes to cross-border payments, at the moment we have several methods of doing so. You've got things like neobanks, which is banks that are online. They're not banks that you have a physical entity as the bank, and they will then offer you a multitude of currencies that you can then go in between and change within the actual application associated with the Neo app bank. There are many of them, and each one of them, depending on jurisdiction, will have specific rules and regulations with different countries, and will have specific currency pairs that they will do and won't do. Outside of that, if it's more complicated, I don't know. I know in Nigeria, for example, that they use cryptocurrency and digital currency. They're okay with that. So if it's from a region where they're okay with cryptocurrency and digital currency, then I would suggest going towards something called stablecoin, which is like USDT, as opposed to the Bitcoin, which goes up and down and is very volatile. Something like USDT is backed by the dollar, so it's easy to transact across countries with that, if your country allows you to do so, because I know Egypt doesn't. Also, there are methods where you can do it, where you can have a sister company partnered up from the country you plan to do business with. And then that way it makes cross-border payments slightly more tangible and easier to do. And I don't want to go into this last point because I can speak about this point quite a lot because I'm fascinated by it. But I'm just going to put it in there as a seed, and please look into it. Fractional ownership. So you guys are speaking about fashion, and you're speaking about very similar industries that can easily collaborate with each other. There's a concept which is fractional ownership of any business, and then that way you become one huge entity, and each individual owns a small portion of said entity. And then that way there's a collaborative method between everyone, and everyone benefits at the same time. And that can be done on something like the blockchain, which protects everyone's position within this fractional ownership process. So just a quick example, I'm going to conclude. If you have a factory owner, you have a fashion designer, you have someone who works in logistics, each one of them jump into a fractional ownership type of setup. And that way you mitigate the costs and the expenses, you mitigate the knowledge and the experience, and you manage to give the responsibilities to the people that know what they're doing and have experience in what they're doing. I'm going to stop there, but yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you for planting the seed, and I think that's like a short master class on how to sell across border. Over to you, Gladys.
Yeah, I like what Tim just said right now. It's more or less what I have done within my businesses. The only difference is that it's me within all of the businesses. So I would look at. I'd like to answer rather the first question that you asked, of what is it that the entrepreneurs or creatives would need to do in order for them to gain access to markets and everything. But before they get access to markets, I would say that entrepreneurs need to understand that incubation programs are the key for them to access network, to access mentorship, to access knowledge. And as Emem said, this is generally free. So it's just the time and the internet connection that they need to invest in. I always say Google University is your best university from home. When I look at the name Gemini Africa, I actually use a lot Gemini AI, and it helps me with breaking down a lot of the things that I need to do, and gives me a structure, direction, and so on and so forth. It also cuts down the need for me to employ a lot of people to do the job that I can actually do within that space of time with the limited resources that I may have at the time. Tapping into universities when it comes to marketing, answering the marketing experience. not everybody knows the nitty-gritties of marketing. I have come to understand that throughout the years, especially within the hospitality. So what I have done is I've tapped into universities where they have obviously the fraction of marketing students and so on and so forth. And then I have collaborated with them. They needed the space where they would intern, and I had the access to their knowledge and their know-how. And in turn, I've also learned something regarding the marketing, how to restructure my marketing, where to market, and so on and so forth. And then when it comes to then bringing everything together where it's easy for everybody to find, I have used a platform called Alcaletica. It allows me to have all the businesses within one space. It's one click, one link, and people get to access all my social media accounts, websites, and catalogs, and everything in one space. And also just the overall education, teaching your community what they need. The community doesn't always know that they actually need your product. And this has been an experience for me in the fashion industry, where I came in bringing sustainable textile, knowing that Africa is actually one of the continents that is suffering the most with fashion pollution. However, the community I was approaching did not understand why they actually needed it. So I needed to go back into education and actually educate. So your content, when you do your marketing, has to be educational. Towards your part of it has to be educational, so people get to understand that actually I don't just want to look good, I also need to be sustainable in order to contribute positively to the environment and also to my overall well-being. And then I hope that then satisfies the question that was asked earlier on. And then when it comes to ownership of your product, or rather the understanding of your product, and therefore being able to communicate it better, you can also build that within the assistance of the universities. Because right now I'm currently working with Bets University, and we are working on the sustainable hemp and conifer, and they have helped me to extract the oil from it. They have helped me to because they have the facilities to actually do the processing. And therefore, if you partner with them, and they're usually open to that, if you partner with them, they give you access to their machinery, to their facilities, in order for you to perform what you need to perform without having to dig into your pocket and actually pop out money and spend for machinery and so on and so forth. And also the know-how you gain that while you are collaborating with them.
All right. Thank you very much, Gladys, for sharing, that powerful insight. And I think that I'm sure that everyone that has joined, I don't think I know, that everyone has joined so far has learned a great deal. As we begin to round up, we're going to end with one closing thoughts, each person, but very briefly in less than 30 to 45 seconds, if possible. So I think that my question to all the panelists will be, what is that? What do you see as the future, right? What do you see as the future? But particularly, maybe what do you see as the future, particularly for Tamer and for Gladys, but particularly for Emem and Mary, what is to come? So, for just to sort of restructure the question again, sorry, give me a minute. Yeah. For Gladys and Tamer, what do you see at the future? And then for Mary and Emem, what is to come? So I will just hand over quickly to Gladys now to tell us what is to come, but very quickly because of time. What should we be expecting as what to come? And then to Emem as well, and then we'll share the final updates on. So I'll tie all of it together. So please don't drop off yet, as we are not done. I'll be sharing the step in terms of the next step and what to look out for. Yeah, over to you.
Help me understand, what is the future within my own space, my business, or within the context of the collaboration within the African continent?
Oh, sorry. I was going to explain that, but I wanted Gladys to go. Sorry, Mary to go first, right? I meant to say Mary.
Okay.
So like, yeah. So when it's time for yourself and Tim, I think I would provide maybe a bit more context around that.
Okay, thank you everyone for that. Okay, so what I see is the future is us working together, entities like us and like ICT working together to do this kind of framework and do this kind of connection. Because what I see is there are lots of opportunities that are left unexplored. So through our programs and through our activities, we can identify these opportunities and connect together and create a platform where startups and creative entrepreneurs can actually learn about these things. Because, like as Gladys said, you need to research, you need to understand, you need to see the edge of what you're doing. But then there is this other part that we as entities that supporting startups, this is why we are here. And since we are doing it, maybe for us, we are focused on Egypt and a few African countries, but for ICT, I can see like a huge access throughout Africa and I'm sure other countries as well. So for us to, like bridge this space, and we need to work together on identifying the opportunities and sharing the opportunities, because the opportunities are there and the startups do not see them fully because like they're stuck with what they're doing and so on. And this is our role. So through the programs that we create, we have to, as well as do the capacity building and so on, we need to start giving the access and sharing the opportunities across our countries, not just focused on where we are at the moment. So this is one thing. And the other thing is, and this is a message maybe to our entrepreneurs here, I see the future in you, not in you being very flexible and very agile. Okay, so you work around your product and your service to match the borders that you're trying to cross, and our role is to help you get there. Be flexible about your how you use your money. Be flexible how you look at the marketing, and I'm sure that this will kind of create a bigger space for you to grow and so on. And never say no to a partnership. Never say no to an opportunity where you can learn more things and connect with other people who can do things for you. Just exactly like Tamer said and Gladys said as well. So this is like a vision that we have to put into the design of our programs, connect together with entities like ICT and others, and like have this vision spread out. And these are like small few messages to our creative entrepreneurs out there.
Thank you very, very much. Emem, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Abraham. So I'll just build off of what Mary mentioned already. So in a nutshell, I'll say the major thing will be deepening infrastructural strength. So whether it be partnerships, ecosystem support with mentorship, facilitating trade at various scales, small scale, large scale, as well. So deepening that infrastructural strength, and that can never be achieved in silos. So definitely partnerships with Gemini Africa come in place here, partnerships across the continent and globally as well. And with the infrastructural strength, also strengthening infrastructure across various things. So we have the technical elements, capacity building, mentorship, the knowledge. Then there's the ecosystem, so mentors, um, leaders within creative sectors, private sector as well. There's the funding elements as well. What some financing mechanisms that creatives need? How does this differ from the age of the creative business? How does this differ in terms of the sector they are playing at as well? Um, then also looking at connecting all the dots to make sure that the entire puzzle piece is functioning and moving at the same pace as well. So we don't have some sectors where are booming and other sectors where there's still a lot of growth that needs to happen. And also what I mentioned earlier, Gladys mentioned this as well. So just going into the informal markets, because that's also a huge part of our entrepreneurial communities that are not being as served compared to the formal markets. And then the second thing I would say is for both from a company perspective and even for the entrepreneurs would be just looking at the possibility of the future. There are so many things that exist now that 5, 10 years ago were foreign concepts. Even as looking at the merge between technology and creative. So now, like Tamer was mentioning, where you can sell products using stablecoin, that was not a possibility a couple of years ago. So looking at how we can infuse technology into the various things that we do. What do NFT sales look like? How do we make this accessible across the continent as well? So yeah, that's a summary of everything I would say on my end.
Thank you very much, Emem. And I think now over to you, Gladys. So, Gladys, you will be speaking about what do you see as the future of the creative sector within Africa, like when the barriers are sort of lifted. How do you see that happening, and what do you see as like what opportunities do you see ahead?
Okay. Thank you for the question, Abraham. I think I'm going to lean back to what Mary and Emem said. Um, in the NPO space, we look at the communities and we look at what they go through on a day-to-day and what could be the solution for them. Then we provide them skills, and with the skills, then we help them refine their skills. But then after, we are lacking the space where we could then send them to then build their businesses and scale their businesses, and therefore access the different markets across Africa. And I think this is where Germany and ICT Africa come in for me. And I think that if we could then create a funnel or a channel that then we work together step by step. So from the ground and preparing them to where they are ready to then access your organizations or your programs, to then take them onto market and take them to the African market. I think that is the only way that can assist them, because most of them don't even know where to go. But so when we bring them these programs in, and then it allows them to actually understand that there's more to this Africa than just struggling from a day to day and trying to figure out how you're going to get bread for tomorrow. So that's mainly what I do, and that's mainly where I see it going. I see the collaboration with the two entities and more, and into getting Africa to be a self-sustaining continent.
Thank you very much. And now to Tamer, I mean, you stay at the intersection of accessibility, technology, finance, and now creative. So, from your standpoint, what do you see as the future?
From my standpoint, I say this with an element of humor, but an element of reality. These types of conversations are terrifying for the Western world because the opportunities in Africa are absolutely limitless. The wonderful and the great minds we have in Africa are so many, but they just like Mary said, and like also Gladys said earlier, they just don't have the roadmap. They don't have the opportunity. They don't have the chance to turn their idea or their concept from an idea or a concept into a reality. So, in conclusion to everything, I just want to say your analysis on what you are doing before every step that you do is one of the most important things in the process. And then comes your direct internal team that you choose to be your partners. It is almost like a relationship. It's very, very, very important, and it's going to be the main focus of of your life for a long time and take a big chunk of that. And then the third layer is the network that you are in, and what is the caliber of the introduction that you are given from this network that you have, and how impactful can it be? If you're able to combine those things, I think, which I guess that's the direction you guys are going towards right now with Gemini Africa and ICT Africa. So I can see that this is the beginning of that process. But again, in conclusion, analysis, team, social net worth, and God help us all.
All right, thank you very much. And that's a great way to bring the webinar to a close. But before that, I'd like you to just drop for everyone that's joining us. Um, how has this session been for you? Honestly, I would like to know in the chat box. So just drop with one word, how has this been for you from you spent the last hour and above listening to the amazing panelists from Gladys to Emem to Mary to Tamer. I mean, how has it really been for you? We'd like to know how the session was for you. And if you also want to share what you're looking to do differently, and I'll just start sort of sharing a few things as we go along as well. There are some questions that have not been answered. I think there is one specific one about how that, I think a business that is trying to enter into Egypt and trying to know what's the best way to be able to access the Egyptian market. We'll be in touch with you. I think that's Fatuma. We'll be in touch with you as well once we sort of touch base with Gemini Africa on what structure works. And of course, if there are, other general information as well, we'll do well to share that, with everyone. I think the second thing as well I would like everybody to also note is that this webinar is recorded and we will be sharing the link to it. So you can be rest assured that you can rewatch it, you can relearn about the things that are here, and the conversations are going to continue. So please keep sharing while I'm speaking. Please keep sharing how the webinar was for you. Then the other part as well is that, as you will rightly see within Gemini Africa and ICT Africa, and I think similar to what Tamer said, networking and partnership is important. So please do well to connect, right, with those already in your network, and also with those that you would be interfacing with across the many programs that you are a part of. Speaking of connection, for the ICT Africa team, you can just find out more about ICT Africa by checking us out on our website, on the social media, and you can also ask questions, reach out, and I'm sure you're going to get a response. Same thing as well for Gemini Africa. I'm sure the contact details would also be shared. But I think if you go to geminiafrica.com, if I'm not mistaken, you would find more details about Gemini Africa. But the link as well will be shared. So do well to follow the various social media handles, be abreast of the information that are available. And if you have like specific questions as well, feel free to reach out. I think the final thing I would say is, based off this conversation as well, as partners, that is ICT Africa and Gemini Africa, if there are some follow-up initiatives, either further webinars, interventions, or support that we need to provide, we will be in touch with everyone. And so please be on the lookout for such information as well. Thank you everyone for joining. Before we go, as our custom is, we like to take pictures. We like to document and take pictures. So if you could turn on your camera wherever you are, and so as we take a picture, so if you can turn on your camera, that will be great. So let's see everyone's camera on. All right, I guess okay.
Sorry, Omotea, I'm feeling very rough today. I don't know if it's been mentioned, but I've got kidney stones, so I'm just sat there wrapped up and I don't look right.
Yeah, thanks very much. I think that's something I also wanted to mention, but thanks for bringing it up as well. Thanks, Tamer. Despite the inconvenience, but because of the value that you wanted to give in, you were still able to show up. So for those that are not aware why Tamer couldn't turn on his video, I think it just spoke to that as well. Thank you as well for joining, and thank you once again to all our amazing panelists. You all are you're the bomb. I think that Gladys' hand is up.
Yeah, may I just say something before you go? Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that this is the right platform because there is creatives here. So I am currently working on a project where I'll be taking on 20 fashion designers who are ready to scale and access the international market. I will share the information on how to enter. And I will be, we are organizing a fashion show within my restaurant. And therefore, we will pick 4 designers that we will then get on a masterclass and therefore take them on a 7-day masterclass in Italy, where they'll have gain access to a fashion show as well within that 7 days. So we will be doing region to region where there is artisanal that work in specific items that the designers will be working in, so that they can get 8 hours each of masterclass and just mentorship on how to go about the quality of their product and then put them into. So I will share that information. And if there are any that would like to join, it is open to all fashion designers or accessory designers and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Gladys. I'm sure that once the details are shared, many more will be able to connect. All right. Thank you, everyone, once again for joining, and we'll be in touch with further information on future opportunities and programs. Once again, thank you for the time. It's supposed to be an hour, 30 minutes, but we've used like I think 2 hours already, but it was I think every minute of it was worth it. And thanks particularly to, I cannot say, thanks to our amazing panelists for making it worthwhile, from Mary to Gladys, and also the comms team that have been supporting, and Ingi, who is also working in the background. Thank you, everyone, and do have a lovely rest of the day. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.